Hi guys, Andy here, and I'm here to bring you all things Monday to makeup related. If that's your vibe, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to be part of my little slice of the internet. And in today's video, I'm bringing you my chopping block review. I had a couple of you guys say that you did want to hear me talk about the palettes that I did have on my chopping block from my declutter. So if you're prepared to listen to me rant and rave and ramble about those palettes, then let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so as I said in my little poll that I did in my community tab, I've decluttered 98% of the palettes that I put in my chopping block from my declutter series. It didn't work for me. So we're going to start with, out of all of my chopping block palettes, only 2 of them are staying in my collection. So those are the 2 that we're going to start with to talk about. So the very first one is the Give Me Glow Pastel Dreams palette. Hang on, we have a visitor. We have a visitor. Oh. Say hello. Oh, this way. Say hello. Oh, you have eye boogies. Say, I just woke up from a nap. I'm sleeping in Dad's chair. What's up? You have water. You have food. You just had a you're not getting on my desk. Alright, say bye to everybody. Oh my goodness. Oh, your paws are so wet. Ugh. But the very first palette is the Give Me Glow Pastel Dreams. I have used every shade in this palette except these yellows. I've used everything else. And this palette, it's gorgeous. I think I even used the pinks as a highlight and blush, which were beautiful. This is just, oh, it's so beautiful, so gorgeous. Because of how much I loved this palette, I actually have gone on Mercari and I bought 2 other Give Me Glow palettes because I loved this so much. I will say, my one complaint with this palette is that the shimmers don't necessarily, like, they're a little darker than what I would want, like, the flips to be. So what did I say? So, like, this mint flips gold, kind of like the Natasha Denona Pastel Plexi Highlighter, and I just, you know, doesn't have to do that. This shimmer is a little more pink than peach. Wish it wasn't. And the third look, this is more just like a metallic shade. But like, they're still all very, very pretty, but I was trying to be nitpicky. That was the whole point of the chopping block series. But it's still staying in my collection because I absolutely loved it, and it's gorgeous, and it's staying. The only other palette that is staying, which I believe, yep, it's on the back here, is my Natasha Denona Retro Glam. And now, I did not even do a look with this palette. So I'm sure with that, you're like, well, Andy, then why is it staying in your collection? I, again, rearranged my Natasha Denona singles, which I didn't film because I just did it on my own volition. And I think I changed a couple shades in here. And I think this one's pretty. This is still in my pile of shame project. And I'm good with keeping it for now. It's not one that I'm ready to get rid of. Even though I didn't do a look with it yet, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to put it on the chopping block, but I wasn't ready to do a look with it or anything. So, everything else is gone. And I even have some palettes that are already like fully gone. They've already sold on Mercari. I will leave my Mercari listed down below because most of these palettes are listed there. Some have already been given to friends, so if you don't see them listed there, they're already been accounted for. But we'll start with, we're just going to go in order of my list here. So we have the Beaute Whimsical Bloom, which I no longer have this palette, so you'll be seeing a photo on the screen. And the look that I did, I had to build up the mattes like 8 to 10 layers to get the color that I wanted. The shimmers were nice. Beaute has a beautiful shimmer formula, and usually their mattes are super pigmented. And in the end, the look ended up looking fine. But I just have other pastel palettes. As you saw, I have that Give Me Glow palette. I have my Blend Bunny Sickly Sweet palette. I didn't need this palette as well. So I decided I was decluttering it. Oh, the last drink of my scooters. This was white mocha. So sad. So yep, that one is gone. Wasn't the worst one I've ever used, but I just didn't need it. Then we have, going in order here, right here, the Morphe Rose to Fame. So this guy looks like this. And so I've used the whole palette. The mattes surprised me. They were really nice. These regular shimmers were nice. The really big letdown was this center shade because it's a molten metal and you're supposed to be able to use it wet to dry. It sucks. Like, it's not that it sucks. I'm not going to be doing a bunch of swatches in this video, but I'm sure I will swatch some things. Okay, it's not bad, right? But wet, it looked horrible. It was a texture mess. It looked awful. It's better dry. And that just pisses me off because the whole point of the palette is that it's a wet to dry shadow. So even though the regular shimmers were fine, I love this shade, and the mattes were fine, I have this color story in other palettes. So I don't need this little 9-pan when I have this color story in other things. So it's gone. Then I have the Adept Plain Jane palette, which this has already been, it's already gone, so you are seeing a photo of it. So, my very first look, I used ACI 1 and ACI 5, which they go in order top to bottom. And they were pretty. I did really like the formula. The formula of this palette is like the formula, my perfect formula of shimmers. They were squishy, they were kind of wet feeling, they were great. But I just personally felt like I would have to swatch the entire palette to figure out how they would look on my eye, and I hate that. So then I wanted to use this whole palette to figure it out. But every time I looked at this palette, I was like, I don't know what these shades are actually going to look like on the eye until I swatch them. And so that bothered me. So I ended up swatching out the palette. And I sat there for a while. I debated on depotting the couple shades that I really enjoyed into singles. But I just hate decluttering a not full palette. Like, if I'm going to let go of some shades, like, unless I'm going to throw away the rest of the palette, like, unless it's, time for the palette to be retired, then it's one thing for me to keep a shade or two if I really, really, really want to. But, like, if I'm going to give that to someone, I need to give them the whole palette. So I let it go. Because I just have found I don't like multi-chromes. I don't like shades like that are that shifty. I don't want to have to sit here and be confused on what a shade is going to look like when I'm looking at it and it's one color and it's something different. It bothers me. Then I have my Nomad Duo that I was getting rid of. So I don't have either of these anymore. Those are already gone. So the first one was the Tokyo Harajuku palette, which I ended up not doing a look with this palette. I swatched the whole palette out and it barely showed up in my swatches. And so again, because this was a pastel palette, after looking at the swatches, I was like, I don't need it. I have better pastel palettes in my collection. So I just decided that I was getting rid of that one. And then the other Nomad palette that was in my chopping block was the Hudson Valley. And the light shimmer, the light mattes on that top row, I had a lot of issues with them patching up and just blending. And then that row of shimmers, the 3 shimmers, were very similar to the shimmers in the Love and Death palette. They were very, very hard pressed. They didn't have a lot of pigment payoff, and I didn't like it. I love the color story of this palette. I love the theming. I love the embossings. But the formula of this one, like if they redid Hudson Valley with their new formula, I would buy it in a heartbeat. But it didn't work for me. Then we had the Notoriously Morbid Weird Vibes, and I'm sorry, this is the only photo I could find of it, but because this palette's already gone completely out of my collection as well. I just have a bad taste in my mouth from Notoriously Morbid. That I think I made a video on that eons ago when the whole thing happened, but if you'd like more tea on brands that have pissed me off and are on my no-no list, then I can do that. But I swatched it, I decided I was decluttering it. I don't like the texture of the shades, I don't like the pigment payoff. It just, I like the cover art and that's it at this point. I don't like it, I let it go. Then we have from Moon Slice Beauty. This is the Blue Moon palette, which I threw this in my chopping block just because it's a monochromatic blue palette, and I just don't find myself gravitating towards monochromatic palettes. So, that's why I'm getting rid of it. I never even did a look with this palette. You'll find that most of these palettes I didn't even do looks with. I ended up just going through swatching these palettes and deciding based on vibes, but I didn't like how the swatches turned out on this for the shimmers. The mattes, hi Bubba, the mattes felt nice, but I don't wear blue enough to need a monochromatic blue palette anymore. So, that is going. Then we have the big kahuna, the Beauty Bay Berries, which I have the 42 pan version. So, it looks like this. The color story is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. This is gorgeous. But I have two things. One, I have found that I no longer like really big palettes. I have one big palette left in my collection, and it's from Glamlight, and every day that I open my palette drawer, I debate on getting rid of it. Every single day. It's the Michaela and Glamlight palette. Every day I open my drawer and I debate on getting rid of it. But this is just too big. Like, and that's the long and the short of it. It's too big of a palette for me, which is why I no longer want it. Two, it's got a lot of the satiny shimmer formula from Beauty Bay that I don't enjoy. And three, I made a video about this when I talked about, in my Throwback Thursday, that I think this formula, where there's the bee embossing, I don't like this Beauty Bay formula. Let me show you. So I have it right here. So if we look at, plus this also is the Reckless Romance, and it has a similar, not the same, but a similar color story. This formula doesn't have an embossing. I think these are two very different Beauty Bay formulas, and I enjoy this formula that doesn't have the embossing much better. So now I just know that in advance that if I'm going to buy a Beauty Bay palette, that I don't like this formula. You know, it takes, sometimes you gotta just learn. But I'm also learning my preferences, and you know, it is what it is. But that palette's just too big for me, so it's gotta go. Then we have the Glamlight and Freddy Krueger duo. So we have the Dream Master palette, which is the red one, which we have a beautiful silver. Let me give that silver. It's so not great. I mean, it's not horrible. But when we swatch that compared to, because I got it right next to me, my ColourPop, oh, so creamy, Best Silver. So not good. And then we have the actual one called the Freddy Krueger palette. What one would I want to swatch? Let's swatch this green. Yeah, I don't love... So, I had never used these palettes because I remember when they came out and it was said that they were a different formula than Glamlight's normal formula. And I just don't like the texture. Every time I swatch these, I just don't like them. The color stories are absolutely beautiful. I love the IP. I love the size of these. It's just, they are a different formula and I don't enjoy them. So they're gonna go. We have the Tartelette Juicy. Smells delicious. It smells like vanilla. This goldy, bronzy, Steph, if you're watching, I'm sorry, I'm going to swatch it one last time because it's the prettiest, like, rose gold, beautiful shade, because this palette is going to Steph. Oh, it's a beautiful palette. It's just, again, and I will sanitize your palette, Steph. It's just not something I need. I have these colors in other palettes, and I've only ever swatched it, now twice, that I just don't need it, and it can go to a better home. It's a lovely palette, so I've heard, but I don't need it. I'm so sorry that you hear Blazemere in his litter box, because I know you guys hear him getting the litter out of his big old paws. Next we can talk about, this one's also going to Steph, it's the Beauty Bay Midnight, and this one is the 16 pan, and you guys just heard me rant and rave, and I really have the same feelings about this one. Okay, he's done now. I have the same feelings about this as I do the Beauty Bay Berries, with just, I don't like this formula with the embossings, but this color story, gorgeous. Like, this light purple, beautiful. But we used this in a bingo of shame, and I didn't enjoy this one. So that is going as well. Then we have the Okalon Ethereal Nudes, this is the last one that I just don't have any longer. And this is a dupe palette for the Huda Beauty Naughty Nudes, I believe. And it swatched beautifully. I just had this palette for forever and didn't use it. And that, like, goopy shade with the pigment pearls, I was never going to use that shade, and it was a nude palette that I didn't need, and I didn't like all the textures in it, so it was not for me. So then we have, and this one makes me so upset, we have the Sigma and Alice in Wonderland palette. I love this because, like, look at this silver. This is such a pretty silver, especially for it being more sheer. Like, that is gorgeous. But I just have found, and maybe it's just this palette, but I don't like this formula. I think that they're mattes, so their shimmers, they're either thick or they're super thin. And their mattes are super thick. And I just don't enjoy this. But you know what I do enjoy and am keeping, and you can pry it out of my cold, dead hands? I am keeping the brush that came with this. I use this brush every day. I love this duo end, and I don't like duo-ended brushes, but I love this, and I use both sides. So when I listed this on Mercari, I even said, like, does not come with brush, because I'm keeping the brush. Then we have this big honker, the iconic London Treat Yourself. So when I swatched this guy, I don't know if I just had rose-colored glasses on the first 2 times I swatched it, but it's mostly shimmers, and the shimmers are so thin. You really have to build them up to get pigment, and the mattes that are in here do feel very nice, but there's just not a lot of them. And again, it's just a color story that I don't need. And it's a slightly bigger palette because it's what? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. It's a 20 pan palette, which isn't that big. 15 to 20 pans is like as big as I want to go. But 15 pans, like the Natasha Denona pans, are like my perfect size. Sorry, Ian called me. So when he gets to work, he has to text me and let me know that he made it to work. And he never did. So I called him 3 times. Well, he just called me back and was like, hey, you called? Sir, it's been an hour. So we have 1 palette left, and that is the Jeffree Star Lollipop Killer. And that is this 9 pan here. And I'm decluttering this, which, let me grab it, which, guess what, guys? I have decluttered enough palettes that my Jeffree Star palettes no longer have to live on top of my organizer. They fit in a drawer. I'm very proud of that. But let me show you why. Because there's a couple reasons. One, I have this Pink Religion palette. Tell me those aren't similar in the mattes. The shimmers, the two shimmers in the Lollipop Killer palette are extremely different, but the mattes are very similar. But my other issue, ooh, Blazemere made a stink. My other issue is I do not like this shimmer. You have to use a brush with it, and I don't like having to do that. And then this one's a satin, so it's just meh. So the palette is mostly for the mattes, and I have those mattes in the Pink Religion palette. So I just don't need this one. I feel like his 9 pans, though they're usually good, if you already have the colors in his bigger palettes, you don't need them. If you don't, they're worth it. But if you do, you don't need them. So those were all the palettes that were on my chopping block. Those were my feelings and everything on all of them. And yeah, that's gonna do it. I hope you guys enjoyed, appreciated, liked listening to me ramble. And another reason I wanted to declutter a bunch of things, well, not just to declutter. Again, I'm trying to figure out my preferences and how I want to do my eyeshadow. I want to be keeping things that I'm excited to use, that I want to throw into projects, that I want to pan in shadows. But also, in my Ice Cream Beauty box and beauty bag now, I'm getting a palette every month. Not that I'm necessarily going to keep those palettes, but if I'm going to start getting new palettes, I need to be having room for those. I don't want to exceed the space that I have. So, a lot of these palettes, not all of them, but some of these palettes were old. But that's going to do it for this, at least probably this year's episode of Chopping Block. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys!